Fox News propagandist Sean Hannity is trying to push Donald Trump even further on these corrupt pardons. We know that Donald Trump is already considering preemptively blanket pardoning his attorney, Rudy Giuliani. He's considering preemptive pardons for his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and three of his children, Ivanka, Don Jr., and Eric. But Rudy Giuliani on his radio show this week, Sean Hannity on his radio show this week suggested that Donald Trump should really pardon himself as well, because everybody's just so unfair and terrible to Trump and they might go after him when he's out of office. Take a listen. This is actually from an interview that Sean Hannity does with Sidney Powell. And it's fascinating that even Sidney Powell, who's completely deranged, has to say, self-pardons, I'm not so sure about that. Take a look.
Unfortunately, I'd estimate that 5 to 10% of our prison population right now is not guilty, but the system did not work as it should have to exonerate them, and we've got to do a better job of that. Not everybody can get a presidential pardon.
Well, that's a good point. And, I watched Andrew Weissman come out and literally say, Biden's AG needs to go after Donald Trump. And I'm like, the president out the door needs to pardon his whole family and himself because they want this witch hunt to go on in perpetuity. They're so full of rage and insanity against the president. I mean, can the president, I assume that the power of the pardon is absolute and that he should be able to pardon anybody that he wants to.
It is absolute. It's in the Constitution. I don't know about his authority to pardon himself, but it should not be necessary. And aside from that, the president's going to get another 4 years in office to finish the job he started because the election fraud we are uncovering is massive, and there were foreign actors involved in our system.
That's actually really funny. Even completely delusional, deranged attorney Sidney Powell has to mention, Sean, I'm just not totally sure about Trump's ability to pardon himself. And that's actually an important detail. Now, Sidney Powell is saying lots of crazy things here. So is Sean Hannity. Powell saying Trump actually won. Powell saying Trump's going to get another 4 years. But she does mention Trump pardoning himself is a question mark. And the New York Times had a really good write-up on this issue. Remember that Donald Trump has claimed that he can pardon himself. He tweeted back in June of 2018, which seems like a decade ago, quote, "As has been stated by numerous legal scholars, I have the absolute right to pardon myself. But why would I do that when I have done nothing wrong? In the meantime, the never-ending witch hunt led by 13 very angry and conflicted Democrats continues into the midterms. Trump can pardon his friends and allies. There's no doubt about it. Trump can pardon people before they are even charged. A preemptive pardon is certainly something Trump can do. Trump cannot protect people from state charges. It is very much in question, however, whether a president can pardon himself or herself, and it's never been attempted. Now, there are legal opinions on both sides. On the yes side, a president can pardon themselves. The argument is the Constitution doesn't say anything about a limit there. The Constitution says nothing about you can't pardon yourself. The Constitution does say if a president is impeached and convicted, they can't pardon themselves from an impeachment conviction. So the interpretation from some legal scholars is, listen, it's very clear that when there was meant to be a limit, the Constitution mentions the limit. The Constitution mentions a president can't pardon themselves from an impeachment conviction. So we can infer from that if the founders intended a president would be unable to pardon themselves from federal crimes, it would be mentioned. Since it's not mentioned, a president can do it. That's one interpretation. OK, now, on the other side, there are many counters. One counter is the Constitution says the president can grant a pardon. And this is a sort of linguistic analysis. The word grant means from the president to someone else. And so the presence of the word grant means a president can't pardon themselves. That's one argument. Another argument on the president can't pardon themselves side argues that a principle in all law, nationally, federally, at the state level, there's a principle in law that you cannot be a judge in your own case. and that a self-pardon would effectively be the president being a judge in his or her own case. So the simplest situation, as has been discussed, is instead of Trump pardoning himself and maybe being subject to legal challenge, the simplest path forward that has been floated is Trump resigns shortly before the end of his term. Mike Pence becomes president. Mike Pence pardons Donald Trump. No doubt about it, that would be far simpler. I still don't think that that is actually going to happen, but it would be interesting to be wrong on that one. And if I am wrong and Donald Trump does resign in order for Mike Pence to preemptively pardon him, that will be one of the biggest political history stories, certainly for decades to come. Later on today, we are going to talk about international reaction to the continued voter fraud claims being made in the United States and international reaction to Joe Biden continuing to move forward with his incoming administration. We are also going to talk. I got a lot of emails from people saying, David, do you think Tucker Carlson is the direction the Republican Party will go in 2024? And I have some thoughts about it, which we will discuss a little bit later. And then we also, now that the presidential transition has formally been started, the GSA saying we are releasing these $7.3 million in funds to Joe Biden to officially start that transition. We are going to address the question of whether presidential transitions should even depend on a sitting president. But there's a second layer to that question, which is, do they really even depend on the sitting president? Because remember, whether or not the transition funds were released to Joe Biden, Donald Trump stops being president on January 20th at noon Eastern time either way. So all of those questions and your calls are upcoming. We've got a great program for you today. Let me know what you're following, what you're paying attention to. You can find me on Twitter at @DPakman. We will take a very quick break and be back right after this. A lot of the shirts you see me wearing on YouTube are actually made by a company called Teddy Stratford. I love these shirts, and that's why I asked them to be a sponsor of the show. It really is the most innovative shirt you can buy, because most slim fit button-up shirts give you this weird stretched out gap in the chest where the buttons are. You don't get that with the Teddy Stratford shirts, because all of their shirts come with a patented zipper hidden beneath the buttons, which prevents the chest from stretching apart like that. But most importantly, just overall, it makes the shirt fit much better and look better. The carefully designed shirt is also cut in a way that improves the look of your upper body physique. It has a really nice, elegant, close fit that other shirts don't really give you. It also has a specially designed collar that won't fall down and lay flat, which I love. The difference all around with these shirts really is noticeable. Go check them out at davidpakman.com/Teddy. The link is down below, and they'll give you 15% off your first order if you use the coupon code Pakman at checkout.